Hello all, this is Shekhar Roy and I bring you another video in this series of Rhino3D shorts. Why shorts? Well, keeping it short and to the point. With your support and motivation, many more to follow in future. So in this lesson, we are going to model this famous Alessi juicer. All the project files and a PDF are provided in case you are lost in the process. So let's jump into Rhino3D and go through the step-by-step process. Open a new file. It is set to millimeters, which has its own tolerance value. Just use the millimeters and open. The first step is to bring the reference images. So we're going to bring this into a front view and this one into a top view. This is just for checking the rough size of the actual object, which is about 290 millimeters. The first command is picture frame. Start typing the picture frame command, picture frame word on the command line, and it will ask you to browse for a reference image. So here we're going to bring the front view first, and since we are bringing in the front image, we're going to bring it to the front view. It is asking for first corner. Okay, I'm going to just click 0. That's my center of the grid, and just draw any random size. We will scale it now. Once the image is in place, we are going to make it slightly transparent so we can see through this white background. So select the plane, go to this properties, in this material section, which shows like a tube, and in the transparency section, drag this slider so you can see through the reference image and see your grid and any curves that we are going to draw in future. So with that done, let's maximize the viewport, and let's draw a line that will help us measure the existing size of this image reference. So I'm using a simple polyline from that, eyeballing the top to the bottom here. So I'm using shift to draw ortho line. So eyeballing it to pick this base of the leg. This length should be 290 millimeters. If I measure this now, you can see this linear dimensions from it says 20 size. So we're going to go and scale, transform, scale 2D, scale, let's click everything including the dimensions if you have, and then it is asking for objects to scale and press enter. So objects are selected. I'm going to press enter, and it is asking for the origin point. I'm going to pick, let's say, this base point here of the line, reference line, and pick this top of the line and say this needs to be 290. Okay, you can see now the actual length is 290 millimeters. So 128 plus 162, it gives us that 290 millimeters. Now once it is done, we're going to put this line slightly to the center. You can see that's my center of that image reference. Also rotate this image. You can also rotate this image so it follows, it puts that in the center. You see, that's the center. That's the center of the line. We're going to move this to the 0, 0 axis, which is the center of the grid. So press 0, enter, and it has put that center to that line endpoint to the center of the grid. I can delete this dimension, we don't need that. I'm going to put this in its own layer. So select the object, go to the layer, right click and change object layer. and we'll lock it so we don't select it by mistake. So you can see the plane is not able to select, but the line is, because line is still sitting in the default layer. So this is done. We're going to now go to the top view and bring here the reference image of the top view. So picture frame again, I can start typing the picture frame command here, or right click in this history panel, and that shows me the last run commands. So I'm going to do the picture frame. It will ask me to browse for the image, and we do the same process of bringing that image in the viewport, change its transparency, put that in its own layer, change object layer. Let's name this reference top, and this one here is reference front. This image, the center is this here, so I'm going to select that image reference, move it, eyeballing the center, and put it to 0. Okay, you can see the image came out quite small. Okay, I can just scale this. I can just scale this manually. We don't really have to do it precisely the same matching. I just scale this manually from center. Scaling is using the gimbal and holding shift and pulling one of these red or green boxes. So that scales it uniformly. If I just pull one, it will stretch it. Okay, so scale it uniformly to the same size that you have. You can see that's the size of our front view. So I'm trying to look in the perspective view and just scale it roughly what I feel is okay, but we can always scale it to the right size later using the curves. This is not centered yet, so as I scale it moved from the center, so that should be, this should be sitting at the center of the grid. So we eyeball the center and move it to 0. Okay, so that's my center. Okay, now both of them are in their own layers. You can see on and off, on and off. We'll lock also this second layer, which is the reference top and reference front. Both are locked in their own layers. And now it's time to start drawing our curves. So we'll do that next. So let's start drawing our reference curve. So let's start with the top view and see how we make this shape here. So we already have some curves going on. So I'm going to use the arc tool. I'm going to use this arc and pull that to create the arc. So I'm going to pick anywhere, let's say from here, holding shift to this point and pull that arc about, let's say here. Okay, so that arc is complete. Let's put that arc in a layer. Let's name it curve, or let's name this curves, and I'm going to put this curve in this layer. Change object layer. Since the layer color is blue, you can see now it shows that line in the blue color. We have about 12 of these. I'm going to use the array tool to copy this 12 times. So we go to transform, array, polar. The center of the polar is 0, which is the center of this. So I'm going to type in 0, enter. Number of items is 12. You can see it says number of items 12, enter, and it should cover the entire 360 degrees. So if you have here by any default some other number, just change this or type in here 360. Mine is already 360, so I'm going to press enter. And you can see it has positioned those copies. It is showing you a preview of where it's going to put the copies. So it is pretty close. I'm going to just accept that and press enter. Now we have 12 copies of the same line. You can see 12 curves selected. What we need now is to join that middle part. To join that middle part, we are going to use curve, blend curves, and either of these. So if I go to quick curve, it is asking for the tangency continuity. I'm going to keep it to tangency and between this curve and this curve. You see it gave me a curve, but I'm not so happy with how it is bending, so I want this to be more smoother. So in this case we can delete this, start with our blend curve, but this time I'm going to choose adjustable blend curve, which will allow me to adjust the curve. You can see it is still a tangency, but it is giving me some points that I can adjust, as per the image reference. I'm holding shift so that both of the points move at the same time. If I don't press shift, I can move only one side. Okay, so once I have that in position that I like, we will accept it. Do not join. We don't want this to join with those two curves. It needs to be just by its own. So we will select OK. So we have this curve, and I'm going to copy this again 12 times the same way we did the main curve. So we go to polar array, center to polar array is 0, enter. Number of copies is 12, enter. 360 degrees, enter, and it shows me the preview, which is good, and enter to accept. Now we have these curves are all matched and touching each other. So I'm going to select them all and join. You can see 24 curves join into one closed curve. So that's our body curve. I'm going to put that in the curve layer again and keep that curve layer as default. So everything I draw, it will be going into this curve layer. Now the body curve is done. Let's do the front view curve. So we go to the front view, make that full screen, and we're going to draw this balloon shape. So we take that freeform curve, left click, and we start from that center top, eyeballing it. Doesn't have to be precise, just eyeball it. So I'm going to trace this particular shape. I'm just pressing few clicks, and if I have to adjust those, I can always press F10, which will show me those control points, and I can move these control points using my gumball tool and adjust those control points to match my surface precisely. Okay, so that's about it. So this part is okay. This part is, it could go slightly higher. So take your time, make sure that your curves are good. A good curve will always give you good surface. Okay, don't rush this part. Just make sure that your curves are matching precisely with your references. Okay, so it looks good to me. I have just made the half. We're going to mirror this to the other side. So select this curve, transform, mirror. My start mirror plane is 0 axis, so 0, enter, and my mirror plane is this blue, and it mirrors my object. You can see it mirrored my object, but it is not quite okay. It has a cross there and a gap here. So to fix that cross overlapping at the bottom and the opening at the top, we are going to use match curve. Match curve is a command under curves, curve edit tools, match. So it asks for open curve. Select an open curve near the end. So this is the end, and I want to match this to this one. So as I click the second curve, you can see it gave me a black line. That's the line that is going to create using tangency, position, average curve. So both the curves adjust itself. If I don't put average curves, it will adjust only the first curve I selected. So we need to do average curves, do not join, and click OK. As you can see, it has fixed that part. If you need to adjust these anyway, F10, you can go ahead and adjust this further so that you get a better curve. Since I have adjusted this side, I'm going to delete this mirror and repeat the mirror one more time. So transform, mirror, or right click here, mirror. My mirror object is this, enter. Center of the mirror plane is 0, straight up, and you can see this time there is no gap and they're touching right at the point. Now we're going to fix that bottom. So we do the same match curve. We select one of the curves near the end, click on the second curve, and it does that match curve here precisely. Same settings from the last time. Average curves, do not join, and click OK. Now we have our body curve done. As we are in the front view, let's draw also one of these leg curves. So I'm going to use the same freeform curve. I'm in the curve layer, going to draw this leg shape. Okay, just trace it, same method as before, and just drop it. If it is snapping to different places, just turn off your snaps, turn off your snaps completely. Okay, and then finish at the bottom. Okay, F10 to adjust those curves. Okay, so you are adjusting those curves so that you can get a better surface at the end using the gimbal. As you can see, I did not start the curve right here where it is joined. I'm starting slightly inside the body, because when you are combining the leg to the body, surface needs to intersect for a clean union. So that's what I did here. I'm going to draw one more curve for the bottom. So again, from slightly inside, just go ahead and trace that inner part, and we come down. If your snaps are active, just close that. Even here, you don't have to be really precise. Even if you go a little bit beyond the floor line, we can always trim that later. F10 and adjust these points so that they are matching. So they are matching to the image reference. Okay. You can see this floor line is here and my curves are slightly going out. So we can use our simple line, draw a simple line, and use that line to trim those two extensions of that leg piece. So I'm going to use this line, go to trim, and I'm going to trim these two areas. So now they are precisely on the floor. Okay. So with the curves created, now we're going to get this curve moved to the center of these two curves. I'm going to also add here an ellipse and a circle perpendicular to our existing curve. So let's draw the ellipse first. I'm going to go to ellipse. We need a diameter because we already have that two reference points. So I'm going to use the diameter mode, clicking this, and then create that diameter or the thickness of the leg. Okay. With that done, we're going to go down here and we're going to create here a circle, 2-point circle. So we have point 1 and point 2. So that's our base, and that's our body that goes into an ellipse form. Now let's move this in between those two curves. To do that, we are going to use transform orient 2 points, it is asking for the object to orient. We want to orient this object as per these two curves. So object is selected, press enter or right click. Reference points, so that it uses a reference point and target points to place them precisely. So it is a copy to yes. If it is set to no, just click here, and scale, if it was set to no, just choose 3D. So our reference point 1 is this side and reference point 2 is this, and I'm asking for target point 1. So our target point 1 is somewhere in the midpoint here, and target point 2 the midpoint on the side. So that's done, and we can right click to finish the command. Okay, so with these curves in the right places, we are now ready to draw and create our surface, and see you in the next part. Now let's make surfaces. Since we are done with the curve part, we're going to now make a new layer. Let's name this surface and make that layer active. So anytime we make a new surface or a geometry, it will automatically go into that particular layer. So for surfacing, as mentioned before, we're going to use one of many Rhino surfacing tools. So we go to surface menu, and I'm going to choose 2 rails, surface sweep 2 rails. It's asking for first rail. So I'm going to start with the body here. So my first rail is this, second rail is this, cross section is this, but we're going to start and end at these 2 endpoints. So since they are starting from a point and finishing at a point, we're going to click on point first, pick our endpoint, then our cross section, which is this, and then the endpoint again. I'm going to put this curve. You can see I can click here on this point and place it anywhere I like. I can place it to the left side or right side as you like, and then press enter. That gives me a preview. Everything set to default. If it is not and did not simplify, you can click that. You can see with simplify rebuild, it gives me a different surface. You can see it lost those ridges. Preview and click OK. Change my viewport to shaded, and that's the surface. It's green because we are in a green layer. Now the reason we use this method of clicking points, because it lets us give the whole geometry as one. If I don't use that process, so let's say sweep 2 rails between rail 1 and rail 2, and straight away choose cross section and press enter, you can see it gives me only half of it. It doesn't give us the whole thing because it doesn't really know from where to start and where to finish. Okay, so that's why we use surface, first rail, second rail. It starts from a point, so we go to point, then we select cross section, which is this, and then the point again. You can see there's a dash under the P, so that's P is the shortcut. So point, and that's the point. Put that point to one of those sides. Okay, that's going to be the seam of the geometry, and then you press enter. It gives you the form, and click OK to accept. Okay, that's our body. Very clean geometry. Okay, if you do not like to see all these lines in the model, you can simply select that surface, go to its properties, and turn off visibility of those lines, and you can see it gives you a surface without showing those lines, ISO curves in the middle. Okay, so on this object, visibility of the ISO curves off and on. Okay, it's your preferences, nothing Doesn't really change anything on the model. Now we do the same thing for the actual leg. Same process. Let's go to the wireframe view so we can see that ellipse in the inside. So starting with surface to rails. Rail 1 is this. Second rail is this. Cross section, since now we don't have any starting point, they are having a section at this and section here. Okay, sections are complete and press enter. Make sure the arrows are pointing in the same direction and enter. It gives me that geometry. Now you can see from this view, it looks like that it has made this part wide. It didn't maintain the same width of the leg. So to maintain that same width or the actual ellipse form going to that circle, we click on maintain height and preview. You can see now it has reduced that bulginess. So maintain height preview off, maintain height preview on. So that's my geometry, and then click OK to accept that. Let's go back to our shaded mode. Okay, so that's our leg, which is going into the body. Now there are 3 legs in total. We're going to use the same tool that we used for this geometry. So we're going to use the leg, transform, polar array, from the center, items 3, enter. Full 360 degrees, enter. It gives us a preview, enter to finish. Okay, so we have 3 legs and a body. They are still open. You can see the bottom is open. If I go and isolate them, you see here they are hollow. You can make them into a solid by going to the solid menu, solid, and cap planar holes. If those planes cuts are planar, it will close those holes. You can see it close those holes at the top and at the bottom. Okay. So once you have your leg geometry complete, now it's time to join these 4 pieces together. They're all solids, so I'm going to select the geometry 1, 2, 3 and 4. Select them all. Make sure that when you make those geometries, it is just entering the body. It is, these legs should not intersect among themselves, so there is a gap between those leg geometry. Okay, and we go to solid union, and you can see it says boolean in progress, creating meshes, and now we have one single mesh that is trimmed and joined at this point. Now looking at the reference image, there is a curve. It is not going into a very sharp corner. So the areas where we join these curves, we are going to create a small fillet in this area. So we go into the solid, fillet edge, select all those edges, enter. It shows me a preview of the existing fillet value. All are same. I'm going to set all this radius to 1. So I've increased that, and let's see what this gives us. Enter to accept that. You can see it was able to give me a surface, but you can see they're broken. They're not able to finish that part. So that's an error. So your fillet radius should be get a clean surface. So this is not good. So we go back to Control Z. We select those edges again. Fillet edge. Edges are these. Enter. Set the values. Let's say 0.75. Enter. And this time it was able to give me the same single volume with a fillet complete. It did not break. It did not break here into separate pieces. Now we do the fillet, same fillet at the bottom. Fillet edge, select all those bottom edges. Here I'm going to give it a little bit more. So let's just set all 1.5, more rounded kind of base, and enter. So that gives me the round base. And that completes our 3D model. So with the 3D model ready, now we're going to check if the geometry is ready for 3D printing. For 3D printing, we have to make sure that the geometry has a wall thickness and it should not be anywhere broken. It should be a watertight geometry. So to check those, we have two different ways. First is to check for volume, if this has any open holes. So we go to Analyze, Mask Properties, and click on Volume. The object that I want to check the volume is this, and enter. If it is able to show you a numeric value in cubic millimeters, means that the geometry is good and it has no openings, so it is watertight. That's one way. The second way is to check for any naked edges. Naked edges are those that we saw before with the fillet error, where the surfaces are broken and it had openings and each surface was separate. So those are referred as naked edges. To do that analyze, we go to Analyze, Edge Tools, and Show Edges. The object that I want to check for is this, enter. And it says that my model has 62 edges in total, but none of them are naked or open. You can see naked edges should show in pink. There are nowhere pink edges showing. That means this model is ready for 3D printing and for rendering. And with that, we complete this Alessi juicer 3D model in Rhino. And to see a rough rendered view like a clay model, if you go to the viewport settings, click on rendered, it shows you that model in a clay model form. So that's it. We have the 3D model of the Alessi juicer. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you like the content and learned something new today. If you like what you see, then join my Facebook group called Design and Architectural Students in Firenze. Here is the QR code to take you there. That's also a good place to request additional topics for future videos. I love getting ideas from you guys. I'm also planning to add more videos to this series and to my channel, so please subscribe. You will be the first to get the notification on new updates and upcoming videos. If you are studying in Firenze and need help with your projects, or if you want to invest your time into learn these programs apart from your school hours, come and visit us. We have several workshops and intensive courses planned out just for you. Contact us and we will send you the details. Now go on to Rhino and model something interesting. I would love to see what you create. See you next time. Till then, happy modeling.